What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Clocks Running, the podcast for everything flag football officials. I'm your host, Jacob.
And I'm your host, Ant. Hey, man, we got it close.
Is that what you were gonna do? You're gonna say my name?
Not at all. Not at all. I was going to jump in and start the whole thing, and you immediately started in. So I was like, well, I can't go ahead and do that. So it's all good.
Oh man. Okay, so I think there was so much going on this past weekend in flag football all over the world. We're gonna get to that later on in the show, but I think it's a good opportunity for us to do a little bit of international road trip.
Absolutely. If we're going to jump the border, why not jump north first since we're already in the Northeast?
There we go. So I think about Canada, and the first thing that comes to mind is Drake. Is that is it like he's like the
Drake's
most
the first
famous
person that comes to
Canadian?
mind when you think of.
Yeah.
I think I'm Toronto Raptors. That's just because I was a basketball fan growing up as a kid.
Oh, okay. Now, did you ever watch the kids soap opera that Drake was in though? Have you ever seen that?
Degrassi? And then the one
Yeah,
that
yeah,
played in
the
the wheelchair?
Gressy. Yeah, yep.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert! Come on, bro.
What do you mean? Show came out like 20 years ago.
I know, but he wasn't in a wheelchair at the start.
Oh. Just saw the pictures of him in the wheelchair. I don't know.
No. So I have been to Canada when I was a kid. Have you been to Canada before?
No. Mm-mm.
Okay,
Nope,
well, cool.
never been to Canada.
So I do know this geography wise. It is north of us. Both of us are south of Canada. Is that correct?
That's
Okay, cool.
correct. You're probably about an hour, probably less actually. You probably swim across.
I mean, I could just swim right across, and if it get during the winter, I think it gets frozen enough. I could just walk across.
You can keep that.
All right, cool. Well, without further ado, let's bring on our guest tonight. Here she is.
Hey, Avery.
You two are crazy. First of all, you can't swim across to Canada. Just throwing that out there.
Yeah, see that? You can't swim to Canada.
What do you mean I can't swim to Canada?
Try it, please, and then let us know how it goes.
The Mounties will get you, is what she's saying.
You just try it. Just try it, and please make sure someone's taping it.
Is there some sort of Canadian Coast Guard I gotta watch out for?
I just told you.
Mounties are on horses, bro.
Oh my god!
Dude, that doesn't mean they can't. They can get off the horse. Like you need to get off your high horse about swimming to Canada.
That's hilarious.
All right, I told Dean I was gonna take a tugboat to the Cayman Islands. I think I could take a tugboat to Canada too.
There's a different
That's all I'm saying.
ocean there, so that's why you have to take a tugboat.
Do you think there's tugboats in Ohio? Let's start there.
Oh,
I want to know if he thinks there's tugboats in Ohio.
that's hilarious.
I mean, I don't know. I'm not a genius on boats specifications. Okay, sorry, Jake.
Or maps.
Geography.
We know.
Or direction.
Or direction. Yep. He also.
Okay.
Let me ask you this question. Real quick before we start. On a Philly cheesesteak, would you put cream cheese on a Philly cheesesteak?
You're talking to me.
Yeah, the only Avery on here.
No, I wouldn't put cheese. No.
Yes!
Why?
Hey, you're a madman.
Oh,
Ant thinks cream cheese on a Philly cheesesteak is good.
But I'm confused. Isn't there already cheese on the Philly cheesesteak?
okay. Hold on, Jacob.
Replace the regular cheese with.
There's regular cheese already,
ahead,
so
buddy.
why do you feel that you need to put cream cheese on there?
Okay, just number one, Jacob. I think this wasn't fair to Avery because that's like asking you about clam chowder. You don't know anything about clam chowder, so to ask you about clam chowder ingredients would be unfair.
Fair. Well,
What do you wait? What do you mean Avery doesn't know anything about cream cheese?
I'm just saying, are there Philly cheesesteaks in Canada?
In Canada.
Wait a minute. Hold on.
No, we do.
You can't
We do. I'm just being sarcastic.
Okay. Oh. Okay. See, and just because you guys make cream cheese Philly cheesesteaks out in Denver, Colorado, doesn't mean the rest of the world wants your cream cheese Philly cheesesteak.
Yeah.
Okay, let me ask you this. Okay, have you ever had a jalapeno popper stuffed with cream cheese wrapped in bacon?
Yes. Literally just this weekend.
Okay. So replace the bacon with steak and put it on a roll.
Mm-mm.
But that's not what a jalapeno popper is. They're not the same thing.
You don't put jalapenos on a Philly cheesesteak to begin with.
You can.
No.
I think you're on your own. I think this is a Denver thing, and you should call it a Denver cheesesteak.
Hey, again, the guy that showed it to me was from Philadelphia. So what am I supposed to do? I'm just.
But he got kicked out. You're leaving that part out of your story.
Okay. He probably did. Avery, next question before we get going. What were you doing? What were you doing in 1998?
What was I doing in 1998?
Yeah,
this is a fun one.
Let's see. Just started football.
Okay.
Playing volleyball.
Okay.
Where was I working? I think I was working for a POS terminal rental company. Living at home. I can't think of anything else. Why? What were you doing at 1990? You weren't born yet.
First of all, both of us were born by the time 1998 rolled around.
Yeah.
I was sitting around watching cartoons and eating Captain Crunch while Ant. Go ahead, Ant.
There was an episode where I talked about how on some sidelines you can find in flag football games a lot of Hennessy and weed. And it just reminded me of 1998.
Okay, so what were you doing in 1998?
I was drinking a lot of Hennessy and smoking a lot of weed, apparently.
But I feel like it's a long time ago, and you must have been very young.
I was only 13, but I got started early. That's all I'm gonna say.
Yikes. Okay then.
That's all I can say. 1998 was a crazy year.
Okay. Wow.
All right. Anyway, let's get into the show.
Okay. We had to, 13. Okay.
Yeah. And I'd love to say that was the worst thing I was doing in 1998.
Right.
We're not going to live in the past. So 1998 was a fun year for everybody for different reasons.
Yeah.
But anyways, let's go ahead and kick this thing off.
Yeah. So Avery, every time we have a new guest on, we just want to give you the opportunity to share your story and what brought you into flag football and how you have gotten to this point today.
Oh, okay. 1998, I wasn't smoking Hennessy and drinking weed. I was playing touch football. So I think that was my first year. Did that, played touch for, I think I just stopped like 6 years ago. And then in the early 2000s, the gentleman that was organizing touch football moved us all to flag. And at that time it was 7-on-7. So we played in a few tournaments, traveled, went to Vegas, went to France, blah, 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 blah. And then there was like a both. So certain cities would do flag football, certain cities would do touch football. We still had the touch football tour around Ontario, still national championships, touch football, blah, blah. Touch football is still going. But at the time, everyone's like flag was, I don't know, I guess like playing 3-on-3 basketball instead of regular basketball. It was just something extra fun to do. It wasn't like it was going to be the next thing. And then I would say I went to Quebec and played on a French team for a few years, and they were already into playing 5-on-5 flag. So we went to world championships, and my coach is like, hey, you're coming with us. And I'm like, okay. And so that's how I got introduced to IFFC and 5-on-5 flag football. So did that for a few years. And then I guess there was a few guys that play touch football that they coach out in the West End. So in Niagara and Hamilton. And so they were running tournaments, and they were running the NFL flag tournament. But at the time it wasn't NFL flag, it was just 5-on-5, but they were using those rules. And then it kind of morphed into them doing one international tournament once a year. And then they, oh, by the way, Avery, you're ref, could you come do this? And I said, sure. And then I got recruited by NFL flag. And then I went to Pro Bowl last year. And then I met Sonia Essex, who then said to me, you should come and do some USA flag tournaments. Because at the time I was thinking of just hanging it up. And then that's how I met Jakob in Vegas, and yourself. You're not as much fun as you are now. You need to work on that. And that's how I kind of met you guys. So here we are.
And the rest is history. So would you say, so we kind of, I think we touched a little bit in your kind of your origin story about Canadian flag history, of where you guys went from touch to flag. What was kind of the driving force behind that for as kind of a national organization?
So it was kind of thrusted on us because the organizer at the time, he was insistent that flag was going to be the next thing. So he was like, listen, he literally took the whole entire women's division for touch football and moved us and made us play 7-on-7 flag, like no choice. And then we created a Team Ontario and a Team Canada, and we traveled. And then maybe 2 years later, everyone went back, but people still continued playing flag football. So in our high schools, I think there's an 11-on-11 where the girls block like this. There's 5-on-5 in some of the interplay with university. It's called UEFA. There's now touch football, Toronto Flag Football Association, which is people like literally flag now is blowing up, but everybody plays it. Under Armour is up here. I ran a league with the SCFFL is the Simcoe County Flag Football League out in Barrie. Once COVID started, that was started with my girlfriend Stephanie and Creasa, and they started this league, and it was small, and now it's huge. It's a great league. It's 5-on-5, 6-on-6. We have from 8-year-olds all the way up until 17-year-olds playing, trying to teach them how to like play and ref and do all that kind of stuff. So that's like it's blowing up everywhere now. But at first it was, we're playing 7-on-7, you have no choice. And then people loved it, people hated it. And now it's all over the place. But because of that, like you guys, there's all these different organizations running flag football. Some of them communicate, some of them do not. And they have their own different rules. So we have that issue as well, like you guys do. Yeah.
What format did you go from for a rough touch or from touch to flag?
It was 7-on-7. It was 7-on-7 flag, and we shortened our field. We made it thinner. We couldn't shorten it because our fields, most of them.
Still there, Avery?
5. I think that's the.
Oh, there we go.
Okay. Did you lose me?
Just for a split second.
Okay. Well, yeah. Sorry. I think it must be all my hand gestures. So they tried to shorten the field and make it more NFL style. So there was no movement on the line. And if you guys know anything about Canadian football, we usually attack the line running. So they did 7-on-7 with no movement, only one person in motion at a time. And we did that for I think a couple leagues still play it, but not many. And even now, Flag Football Football Canada has a 5-on-5 flag football rules now, whereas before it was still 7-on-7. So does that answer your question?
So was the touch league 11-on-11? Is that what you were playing before?
Nope, touch was 7-on-7 as well.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So there's it's just you can attack the line. It's like CFL but without blocking.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I got to ask the question that everyone's wondering right now. So you said Canada, Team Canada, and Team Ontario. Isn't Ontario part of Canada?
Yeah, but every province has their own team. Sometimes, depending. Like, how do you do a national championship if everyone's from one province?
Oh, okay.
Does that I know you guys see the issue is I'm just gonna drop this. The issue is every time that you guys have a national championships, you like to call it world championships because you don't understand that the United States isn't the whole entire world. So I think that's what's throwing you off right now when I say Team Ontario. I'm just, just because. Yeah. World championships, just the United States is in it. No problem.
Actually, Avery, if you had listened to any of our episodes, you would have heard me say that the Canadians dominate when they come down and play in the United States, but you don't listen to our show. So,
oh boy, here we go. Well, this is true.
Right here.
True. Right here. I apologize. I will try to listen to more in the future. How's that? Fingers crossed behind my back. I couldn't listen. It's my bedtime in like 10 minutes.
In 10 minutes.
I'm exaggerating, but yeah.
It's funny you bring that up. I think it was this past year. I can't remember if we were at Worlds. Or I think it was at Worlds. This is one of my first encounters with Dean to realize that he was a cool dude. Somebody said something about the Cayman Islands or something along the lines of that, and I think I didn't know, and I wasn't sure, as far as who, what, if it's, I think it's like a British, it's still under British rule or something British, government. And I said something about America, and he's like, no, it's British. He said, not everything's owned by the Americans. And I was like, oh, wasn't my bad.
Yeah, you guys are crazy. World championship.
Hey, every Super Bowl champion's a world champion.
Right? Like, it doesn't make any sense.
That's awesome.
So do you agree with the train of thought that the Noah Lyles said that why is the NBA, why is the NFL saying they're world champions? If you haven't competed in the Olympics, you're not a world champion. Do you agree with that?
So that's opening a can of worms. So
absolutely, go for it.
The NFL and the MBL and the NHL and all those American leagues, if they had other leagues all over the world where they win and then they come to the world championships, they can say they're world championships. However, there's IFAF runs world things where there's actually teams from different countries competing. That would be considered a world champion. If you have a tournament where you have multiple, let's say 6, 7, even more than that, countries that are competing, then you can get away with calling something that. But when you are the source of all of the competition, one country, you can't really, even if you have international athletes involved in it, you can't really call it a world championship or a world champion once you're done with it because you didn't really play anyone in the world.
Well, good thing we have 7 different countries coming to the Worlds this year.
You do, and you're still calling it Worlds. That's so cute. You have 7 teams from 7 countries, but you have 500 teams from. You have like 500 teams in the tournament.
We got like 1,000 teams in this tournament.
See, there you go.
But wait, is it? I'm just playing devil's advocate here. Is it America's fault that teams from other countries don't come and play?
Okay, let's get this straight. It's countries' faults for not playing in the NFL or the NHL or the NBL. It's other countries' faults. The fact that literally the structure of the NFL is just to be in the United States of America.
I'm not even saying that. I'm talking about flag football, USA flag. Why don't more teams from more countries? Plus, here's the thing. like I said, the Canadian teams have success. The Mexican teams have success. So why don't more countries come in and play?
Okay, so knowledge is key there. So, for example, when I was playing, literally how I got into IFAF was because my coach was the Canadian coach for tackle and flag and all of that. So if I didn't go to Quebec to play, I would have never learned about IFAF, right? So if I'm a team in, I don't know, Manitoba, and I've been playing 5-on-5 flag now because I heard it's this cute thing and NFL has come and done a clinic and blah, blah, how am I supposed to know about USA flag? How am I supposed to know about any of the other organizations that are running international tournaments unless somehow that information is shared, right? So a team from Austria, for example, would they even know about USA flag? No, but they know about IFAF because IFAF has run tournaments over in Europe where they were a part of it. So it's pretty much like, because there's so many different organizations running international tournaments, it's hard to say, okay, well, why is this team not coming? They maybe know nothing about it. And funds. So if it's anything like Canada, you're not getting paid to play, you're paying yourself, right? So how many tournaments can you go where you have to go ticket and flights and accommodations and food and maybe pay for your coach and pay for a trainer and all that? That's a lot of money. So you're going to choose one out of the 5 organizations that you know, that one that you think is the best one, right? Or you don't know at all and you just play in the United States and then someone tells you you're world champion and you're good with it.
So wait, hold on. There was one bit right there. You guys pay for your coaches to travel with you guys? They don't pay
Sometimes,
their own way?
yeah. Depends on who the coach is. Yeah.
Insane.
Yeah.
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
If everybody else was paying their ticket, they can pay theirs too.
True, but that doesn't always happen that way. So
well, that's fair. I mean, we have players who get paid here to play for teams, and that's a whole different story.
That's a whole different can of worms.
Whole different can of worms.
So, Avery, let me ask you this: is there any contact flag football in Canada?
I don't want to say no. Yes, there is. Hold on, let me think. So, hold on. I'm trying to think of. I know that Doc Sports comes down all the time to tournaments, and so he's run himself a couple of tournaments in Canada, or Ontario or Toronto for contact flag because some of the teams love it. They're always coming down to the same tournaments in Ohio, to Tampa, to here, to there. They just love the game and they love the sport, and they've been playing it for decades now. So I think he does try to run a tournament or so, but I wouldn't say that there's a league that allows for the contact as much as there is the weird high school kind of does a weird kind of contact. As I said, the girls block like this, and there's I think it's 12 on 12 or something like that. I'm not 100% sure. I refed it once and then I thought it was crazy. But they do that at some of the high school levels, depending on the region of Ontario. I think it's like Peel region or something like that. I'm not sure.
So how often? So we talk about you talk about Ontario a lot like that. Do you get to go out of Ontario a lot to officiate, or is that primarily where you stay?
So because I live here in Ontario, just so that you give Ant some geography.
Ant.
I live in Ontario, and then there's all of Canada. See what I did? Anyway, yeah. So I've last year, not this year, I did Nova Scotia. I did a tournament in Nova Scotia because I was traveling with Football Canada, and
I love Nova Scotia.
Yeah, and I think I did it. I was supposed to do Winnipeg, but I couldn't do it, so I ended up just doing Antigonish in Nova Scotia. And this year I could they had tournaments in Montreal. And I have friends out there, so if they do need me, I could go. But it's NFL flag is trying to do stuff in the different provinces. But they're not including your travel and your costs. You have to figure out your own travel, and you have to figure out your own accommodations. So if I was to go to Montreal, then I would have to travel 6 hours, stay at a friend's, do all that kind, because they're trying to get local refs, right? Just to build it up a little bit more. So I didn't do any of that travel. But if if FFL, say, decided to do a tournament out in Montreal and they wanted refs and they would fly us in, then, or not fly, but put us up for the weekend, then 100% I'd be there. So, and then we have a tournament tour, and sometimes that tournament tour goes outside of Ontario. So, because the national championships for touch football has teams from all over, and Mary Kennedy, who you all know, she runs the refs for that. So if the tournament went out into Winnipeg, she would see if she could get local Winnipeg officials, and then she'd also fly some officials out from all over, mostly from Ontario, obviously, because that's where the tournament tour is. But yeah, she would do all that. So it just depends on the year and where nationals is, and if I'm available, if I would do it. But yeah, if they'd put me up for the weekend, sure, I'd go.
And what's the biggest tournament in Canada? Is there one specifically that has like so many teams, or is it just kind of whichever organization is doing it?
Well, I could only speak from what I know, because I don't know what happens in any other province, but I would say our national championships for touch is huge. Flag Football Canada did put on two tournaments. They did a 5-on-5 for like club teams, and then they did a 5-on-5 for provinces. And so I ref that tournament. It was I think end of September. So they would consider that a large tournament. NFL Flag ran their national championships. They would consider that a large tournament. Touch Football ran their national championships. They would consider that a large tournament. So it just depends on the organization and who's running it and what they think. And I think Under Armour, I don't know if they ran a tournament or not, but I know they're up here doing leagues. So
what's the team count for those tournaments look like?
They're not like yours.
Oh.
Yeah. There's not hundreds of teams. There's like 30, 40, 20, 60. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's still good though. I mean,
yeah.
So with these province teams, mm-hmm. it piques my interest, because are those clubs within themselves, like they pick their own players from the province, or is there like an official selection process? How does that work? Because we don't have that here.
You're trying to get my goat, aren't you? You're just trying to get me all riled up.
I'm just
I have issues. Okay, so there is
different. I'm just curious how it's done.
No, there's a mixture of stuff, and it frustrates me because I don't think we are, as a country, putting our best players forward for international play, and it frustrates me. So. Okay. Last year, Team Ontario made it that club teams had to play in a provincial championships to then get selected for Team Ontario to then go out to Nova Scotia to represent Ontario. But we were the only province doing that. All the other provinces sent their club teams to national championships so that whoever won that tournament would then represent Canada in Finland this year. Right? Yeah. So that drove, that's what I'm saying. You're trying to get my goat. So I disagree with that, because to me, provincial should have a provincial tryout, get your best teams from that province, best players from that province. If you want to do it in a tournament format where you have all these club teams playing, great. But then start picking players and putting the funds in, because now this is a flipping Olympic sport. How else are we supposed to get great athletes to represent Canada in 4 years if we're not putting the money in and making sure we develop the players properly? So each province should be making sure that they get the best players to represent the province. Then they go and play in this is in a perfect world where funds are available. And I understand that there's issues with that, but in a perfect world, you would want your best players from each province battling against each other in some sort of national championship, some sort of team selection being made, and then putting the best team forward, because we have the athletes, we just don't have the infrastructure. So that's what I said about getting my goat.
So they simply just played a tournament and said the winner of this tournament gets to go. It's just one province. Just send that group over.
Yeah. Wow. So right now, Sub-Zero won, and they're who went to Finland, and I think they came fourth at Finland. And then the team that won this year, there is no world championship.
Grand scheme of things, that's pretty good.
Pardon? I missed what you said.
I said in the grand scheme of things, it's not bad considering it's. Did you hear me? Avery?
Yeah, but the thing is, okay, so there's two things that team can do. That one, they can actually get players that were at the tournament and just kind of build the roster up a little bit, but you can still only take 12. So who do you kick off of your team so that you can bring someone else? And then how do you practice with them if they're not from your province? Right? Because there is no money to fly this person out and have an actual Team Canada practice. Right? So that's where it kind of gets crazy. And Ontario's finally getting into the fact that, you know what, we have the athletes, we can actually compete. But that's how I got to go because I was on a Quebec team. So I went to 3 Worlds and we just had to play. And I think we played in 2 qualifiers for that. And it was just like, okay, Quebec's going. And then we ended up being who represented Canada. So, but it needs to get better than that. Like I lucked out. I've literally never lost to the United States and I've never lost to Mexico. So I'm great. Other people cannot say that.
Ant loves that. Ant loves about half of when you say that. The fact that you haven't lost to the United States, that's Ant's favorite thing ever.
Listen, in IFFC, the team that I was on, we won 2010, we won 2014, and then we lost to Austria in the semifinals in 2016. So I've never lost to anybody else. This is fantastic. It's a great little tidbit that I get to do all the time.
Hey, absolutely, rock it.
Hey, so Jacob has this theory that when the NFL takes over the men's national team, that the current men's national team, they're just going to go over to another country and hijack that team. Do you think that, I mean, Canada is pretty close. Do you think that Canada would just openly say, come on over, we'll give you all 12 spots for the Canadian national team?
No, Canada would not. You'd have to go somewhere else, son. That's not
exactly. Come on, Ant. Be realistic. Don't use a country that's already got a process in place, like Avery just so kindly explained to us.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. No, that wouldn't happen. No, it'll be very interesting. Like the next 4 years are going to be very interesting just to watch the development of the game in Canada and their selection process and to see what's going to happen there in the United States. Because literally some of those guys have been playing on the United States national team for many years. And then they've like youngins have come in and now are replacing them and are playing and are still being quite successful. So it's like, oh, okay, well, NFL's logo is literally on the Olympic thing. So what NFL player is going to knock out a guy that's literally been the foundation of USA national team for flag football? It's going to be interesting and it's going to be political.
Spicy.
And in Canada, the CFL guys, half of them are American anyway, so they don't play 5-on-5 flag. So we're good. But for the men, it's going to be the men in the States. It's going to be interesting. That's going to be interesting. Something that I want to watch for sure.
It'll be spicy.
Yeah, 100%. Think about it. Like, are you going to actually say no to someone like, okay, and who knows in 4 years what, like someone like, for example, like Patrick Mahomes, who knows what he'll be like in 4 years. But right now, that shifty little son of a gun, he would be a fantastic, like, right? Because you can't run as a quarterback. So he's not going to really like that part. But he can shift around in the backfield and they could do all kinds of nonsense to do change of direction and move people all over the place. You can't flag him. Come on now. So you're going to not put him on the team because of politics? Well, just saying.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
No, you're right.
Yeah.
And some big 6'5" tight end who wants to run like patterns with a 7-yard rush. Like, come on, you just throw that ball up for him to catch. You're going to say no to the 5'9" guy that's been playing for 4 years? Like, come on, that's not happening. That's not happening. Right? That's
no, for sure. I mean, we've already seen some of the men's national team usual players get replaced by former D1 college football players. Mm-hmm. So it's already starting. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, I think it's just a matter of time. Maybe I feel like China is the last run for this team. And then after that, we're going to see something completely different. That's just my opinion.
Like they're going to have to, both sides. Like even like, so Mexico, they're not like us, but they do also have multiple organizations that run their flag football, right? But at some point, because they're going to want to put their best team forward, they're going to have to start thinking of something. Do you know what I mean? So every country is going to have to do that, except for the smaller ones that literally only have one national organization. Like they're easy. They're going to be done. And then what are they going to do? Are they going to say, okay, it's in LA, so US is there for sure. And then are they going to make North America battle for a spot? Because literally the top four has been Canada, USA, Mexico, and whoever, Austria, one of those. So then if you're going to say, okay, all those countries get to go in, and because it's a new sport, you're only going to put 8. Are you going to knock out one of the Canadian, US, or Mexico, which have been top 4 for?
I don't think you can.
It's so interesting to see. I can't wait to see this. It's going to be.
That's a really good point. That's a whole nother conversation we haven't even dove into, Ant.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely.
That's a very valid point. You know, how is the selection gonna be? Is, you know, the next couple of years are gonna mean a lot. You know, I think China's taking just 8 teams, you know, for men's and women's is going to be interesting to see how the next couple of years go. Mm-hmm. To see how IFAF or whoever is going to be running the Olympics is going to carry it.
Mm-hmm. Because that's what they do for the other sports like soccer and all of them. You have to qualify, and you qualify per region, right? So this has been going on for decades. There's been IFAF for decades, but the Olympics doesn't have to follow IFAF. The Olympics can do what they want.
Right.
So. Yep. And then, unfortunately, though, you don't want to make it boring. So if they do that, and now all the teams are weak, then it's not a good sport, and they don't continue it. Do you know what I mean? It needs to be exciting. Right. So it'll be.
This can't be breakdancing.
Yeah, exactly.
This is breakdancing. We're in trouble.
I can't understand how that got in there, but whatever.
So, Avery, one other question I have for you is I don't know if you noticed, it was, I think, last month that in Mexico they had their first professional women's tournament for flag football. And there was a couple players from the United States that went there. But basically, I don't know how much you know about what's been going on in the United States, but the United States has tried and failed to have professional flag football leagues. It just hasn't worked out. And and Mexico, now it wasn't a league, but they put on this amazing tournament. The product was really good. They brought in the best officials. The competition was great. I mean, the championship game, and then they have the placement games as well. I mean, even the 6, 7, 7, 8, 5, 6 games, those were all competitive. And I just felt like it was really well put on. Is there any talk, or is there any, kind of direction of Canada getting something like that going?
I don't know. I haven't really been involved in a lot of the Canadian flag this year. I know that, like, as I said, you have all your provinces, you have, Team Ontario, you have Nova Scotia, you have Flag Football Canada. I know they're all trying to do tournaments and stuff, and NFL comes up here, and Under Armour's up here. A couple of my friends are running their own. So there's a Toronto Flag Football League. As I said, my 2 of my best friends are running something out in Simcoe County, which is also taking off. So I don't know if as a province or as a country we're putting on anything to do with professional, but I knew that Mexico was going to find something to counteract the fact that it's going into the Olympics, because they've always been at the top of their game, at least easy 1, 2, or, well, I've never lost to them, so 2 for sure when I was around, but but they've always had very strong teams. They've always had like, even when you're watching how do I say, so my friend Maddie puts on a tournament in St. Catharines, and they brought in some young Mexican teams all the way to I think it was 12 or something like that. And the 8, 9-year-olds, they're so cute. But girlfriend was like making sure her check downs. I missed a call because I was watching her footwork. You forgot that you're 9 years old? What? You got to see it. Like, what is happening? So you know that Mexico is going to be ready for the Olympics. And so I'm not shocked that they're running a professional league, and it's well done. And it's because they've always been amazing to watch, and just their level of play and how they teach their athletes is just bar none. So I'm not surprised about that. And I don't know. I know we did what's it called? We did LFL, whatever that was, the tackle thing, and that was, people were watching it, but it wasn't great. It wasn't anything. So I don't know if they're going to come up with something for flag, but it would be like, we're barely in schools right now. We're barely in school. Like, there's Sheridan, London, and one's college, one's university. So we don't even have them in the same like organizations yet. So we have a ways to go before we can get to professional. You know, and there's work on it, but like they're just not everywhere. Like, if once we get all the colleges and universities, then we could probably think about doing something for professional. Whereas you guys, I know you're not NFL flag, but I went to a tournament called We Run the World, and it was in Philly. And after we were done, they did a showcase, and the showcase was there so that the coaches and from the colleges and universities of the local area could see these girls in action. And we ran drills for them, and then they had their numbers that they could write their numbers down and stuff like that. That's amazing. We're not doing that yet. So we have a ways to go. So if we can get them into our schools, then that starts. And then we get them, because once the colleges and universities are there, then girls are going to go stay here and play. Some right now are the Quebec girls. There's a couple of Quebec girls that are in the States on scholarships, but that's because they can't play it here, right? So there's
and just so I make sure our people in the States understand what you're saying. College in Canada, that's essentially high school. That's like 9 through 12.
No, college is no. So we have high school, which goes to grade 12, and then we have colleges. So our colleges are more like technical. They're more service industry. You can get stuff like that, and then you have university.
Gotcha.
So like a junior college, and like, but now most of our universities, most of our colleges do offer degrees as well as diplomas. So it just depends on what course you're looking into.
Gotcha. Okay. I know in Europe it's a little different as well. So I just wanted to make sure they were on the same page. So
come on, man. You gotta know this stuff.
What in the clam chowder is happening over here?
The clam chowder, man.
Well, Jacob, you have any more questions for Avery before we let her go?
That's all I've got. Thank you so much, Avery, for coming
on.
No problem. It was my pleasure. We do want to give you a chance. We usually at the end of each segment, with a guest, we let them any final thoughts you have. It can be flag football related. It can be life related. Anything like that you'd like to share before we get you out of here.
Well, you should have told me this before, so I could have thought of something on both of you.
Oh, you don't even think anything on us.
Final thoughts. My final thoughts are: I'm excited that 5-on-5 is finally into the Olympics. It's one of those things that, when you were playing, you were like, oh, I hope this gets into the Olympics. And so now I'm really excited for kids today to be able to know that there's a goal for them to go to, and there is going to be something into the Olympics. I think that's going to be awesome. I can't wait to see it. I think that just like you guys, USA flag, NFL flag, FFL, even if you're all different factions, you guys are still allowing people to be able to play at a high level, and that's only going to make the game better. So yeah, y'all can't take each other and you don't communicate, but somehow you're still working together to build the sport, which is the most important thing. And so, yeah. So, and in Canada, because we're so nice, everybody's up here. Under Armour is up here, NFL is up here. Shoot, you guys could run a tournament up here. Right. But what that will do for us, it would allow us to build the game up a little bit more. So like even right now with the Simcoe County Flag Football League, it was just literally kids. And now it's, do we put NFL in there, or do we put Under Armour in there, or do they stay their own brand? But it's still building flag football. So let's continue building flag football for all the generations, and let NFL and the NFL players fight with USA so that they lose and Canada wins and we're all good. But
yeah, I'm good with that. I mean, my prediction, which it has been this way for a while, I feel like the United States will win in men's for a while, but for the women's, the United States isn't going to win again.
Here we go again.
The women are not going to win or are going to win?
They're not going to. The United States women's will not win another gold medal.
Why?
I just think that other countries just continue to advance, and the only reason that the United States men's are going to win is because they're going to replace the team with NFL players.
Okay.
And
you just
so
pulled
that
answer from the back seat of your car.
Right here, back here.
Well, I wouldn't say it's a guarantee, but like as I said, especially now with Mexico doing a professional league, they're like, listen, we've got to build this up, right? Because if you think about it, school-wise, the United States of America, like if they have all their children in high schools, junior colleges, universities, all playing flag football, that's going to be hard for other countries to compete with, because they're going to be the experience on the competition level is just going to be bar none above everybody. So Mexico's like, no. And they have now a professional league, which is going to give them the competition base that they need to build their teams up. All the other countries, they're going to have to figure something out. So that's why I'm saying for Canada, we need to get it into our schools, and not all these different types. Get 5-on-5 in our schools. Let's have some competitions across the country. Then also have provincial teams. And then we also have the national team who's going to IFFC tournaments or whatever tournament they need to go to as a cohesive whole so that we can develop the program. But that's just, again, my 2 cents because I'm opinionated.
Yeah. Well, and
perfectly entitled to.
The other thing that Mexico does is they basically across the board they only play the IFAF rulebook.
Yeah. So,
and that, I mean, to me that makes a big difference.
It does. Because see, now you are versed in the rules, and unlike sometimes, when you go to USA Flag, there's 12,000 rules, but you're playing the one rule, so you understand what calls are being made. You could do time management, you could understand all of those things, and if you're playing it from high school, by the time you get up to college, university, or even your national team, that's all you've done. So,
and that's so
you have
boring. That's why we have all the different formats.
I don't know.
Speaking of that, Avery, what has been your favorite format to officiate in USA Flag?
Oh, in USA Flag, just regular 5-on-5.
Oh, come on. Okay, take that out of there. What's been your other favorite format?
I don't hate me, but NFL Flag is so easy.
No, forget those jabronis. We're talking about of the USA Flag rule book.
We're talking about the only organization that matters, the one that has the world championship.
Right. I did Olympic rules. I did Olympic rules, 5-on-5, air it out, co-ed, and we'll say I like Olympic and just regular 5s. Like it's such a good game. You don't need to do all kinds of cray. It's the game
but
itself
is fun.
Well, maybe at 11 a.m. in the morning, but at 9:30 p.m. when my brain's fried, I just want regular 5-on-5. brain's
when air it out
fried.
is the best.
Yeah, right? Oh my gosh.
Okay, so which format was I apparently no fun in? I gotta get to the bottom of that.
No, I just think in general, when you're walking around, you're Miss Sourpuss. You're not as happy as you are right now. Right? You're not even approachable. Like I'm shocked that I'm having this conversation with you right now.
I love this, you big
I didn't even know when he said Ant, I didn't even know who it was. And when you came up, I was like, oh, so who are we waiting for? That's why I asked who we were waiting for. You're not like this when you're at the field. You're like grumpy pants.
Big sour puss.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Wait till next week. That's what you're getting introduced as.
Okay, well, fair enough. Hopefully, I've changed your opinion a little bit about me here tonight. Okay. Well, Avery, thank you so much for being on the show tonight and just teaching us all about Canada and flag football.
Well, I don't know if I taught you everything because there is a lot.
Everything. No, we know everything now.
We know everything now.
Well, yeah, I did the world. I did a world championship of information to you in Canada.
As long as you understand, we take an inch, we can go a mile.
Go a mile. No, thank you guys so much for having me. And yeah, there's a lot more to know. So if we do this again, maybe we can bring in some other Canadians to have a little conversation with you. And I know there's a couple of people who just love football and would love to do this because this is all that they do. They love this stuff. So.
Sounds like a plan. We wanted to bring our favorite Canadian on first to see how this went. So.
You're smart. You're so smart. Thank you guys so much.
All right. Have a good night.
All right, cheers. Good night.
Avery.
All right. So I don't know if you heard this saying. Maybe this is Canadian, or maybe you've heard this before. She said, "You're trying to get my goat."
Get your goat, sourpuss. That's what I heard. I've heard that before.
Oh, okay. All right.
It's not the first time hearing that. Yeah. It's kind of like what grinds my gears, or what's another one?
I mean, I thought it was like being like you're goading me.
No, it's kind of like it's like when something rubs you the wrong way, when something gets on your nerves.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Fair enough. All right. Well, that was cool. That was I think she taught us a lot. Me personally,
Yeah.
I learned a lot.
Yeah. No, it's good. It's good to know.
It's surprising to me that she said that Canada. I mean, they have been very successful in international play.
Oh, absolutely.
And she explained that they are lacking in infrastructure. So maybe there's been years where they probably could have put it together a better team, and it's their, the infrastructure isn't there. That's interesting.
Could you imagine if we regioned off the United States? Now, I wouldn't even say states because you couldn't, based on population sizes and the way state lines are drawn. I think you'd have to do more regions. Could you imagine taking regions and saying, hey, the best region to win a tournament is the one that goes over and represents us? That would be wild.
Yeah, I mean, what have we been talking about in the last few weeks or so is about how flag football has changed. Where it used to be, George was from Miami and he was playing against Pat in Dallas, and that used to mean something.
Absolutely.
Well, that would be the way to bring it back, I guess, right?
Yep, and it's really, it's really cool that it does mean something there to them.
Yeah.
In a way, I think it would be. In a way, I think it would work. In another way, I don't think you'd have as much success. I think the United States, let's just take the men's side. I think that's the safer conversation here with just kind of the track record they've got the past 5-6 years. If you were to limit them, what would that do to the potential of them going and not finishing with a gold, or them playing a close game where they're almost not gold medal winners. I don't think the United States would be willing to take that chance. I think they see that they've got it where, that the process they have makes them pick the best 12 to put on the field. And they, it's a safe bet for them. So, why would you rock the boat when you don't have to?
Yeah. Well, I mean, we saw what happened 25 years ago when George had to face the NFL players and lost. So, I mean, and that was region. Whoever won got to play play against the NFL. Now, imagine if that was the case, is all the flag football regions played each other, and then to decide who the national team would be, it would be an NFL team against whichever team won that tournament.
That'd be interesting to see, man.
Absolutely. Now, I'm just going to ask this. I'm not saying one way or the other, but do you think that United States players could handle that without having fights break out or crazy situations that come up in some of these tournaments where it comes down to a really big cash prize or something really big, and the players they can't manage their emotions, and it becomes more outside of the lines. Do you think that with all of that pressure, something like that could happen?
Sure, I absolutely think it could. I think you'd have some that couldn't, and I think the tolerance for that kind of behavior and those kinds of incidents would be much less than what it is now. So
Yeah,
those people would be removed completely out of the equation, and it would only be people who, for lack of better terms, know how to act.
yeah,
So yeah, I think you'd still, I mean, you of course you still have some chatter and things like that, but it would not be near, the stakes would be much higher, and people would understand what they're playing for. I think. I'd
yeah.
like to think at least.
No, for sure. No, that's interesting. That would be interesting to see. Now, my understanding is that the Canadian team that went to Charlotte in 2023, they were the team that had won the national championship in 2022. But the national championship in 2023 was literally the week prior to that Continentals. So the team that won sat at home and watched another team go to Charlotte and lose.
That's
So
frustrating. Could you imagine?
yeah,
Imagine you beat those guys, but you got to sit at home and watch them lose. That'd be a tough pill to swallow.
yeah,
That'd really get
yeah.
my goat,
And
if you know what I mean.
I guess I do. I don't know. I'm not sure. Seems like
All right, sourpuss, take it easy.
All right, so I know normally at this time of the show we like to go over rules, and I've been posting videos lately with very slow motion clips and things like that. So I feel like we've been talking a lot of rules lately. So maybe tonight we don't need to do that. But this
Okay.
past weekend there was a lot going on. So I don't know if you want to talk about Camel City. I could talk about it because I watched some of the games live. But do you want to talk about Camel City at all?
We can talk about Camel City. That's fine.
Okay, cool. My guys choked.
Hey, so I think we did a really fun thing. We started in the spring, and it was, I don't want to say we were kind of forced into it, but we just kind of the way scheduling worked, we kind of had to go to a double elimination format to get these guys, all the games that we promise. And it was really successful. I think a lot of teams like the kind of the structure we developed for our spring league, so we carry that into the fall. You play 7 regular season games. I think it was 7 or 8. I can't remember. And then you go into a double elimination bracket. And it gives you that chance. Like you don't just come out there and just play one and done if you lose. It makes every game matter, but it also gives you new life if you do lose a game. So like you said, we got to the semifinals, and it was Carolina Reapers and Becks, and then it was the Infinity Rockets and Mambas on the other side of the bracket. And I think we're down to 6 teams at that point. The Bulls, I'll talk about them in just a second, but the Bulls and the Block Boys were waiting in the losers bracket for the losers of those games. Bex played a really close game against Reapers. Reapers came out on top. They executed a little bit better. That game, honestly, that game could have gone either way. Both teams, I mean, very evenly matched when it came to schemes and figuring each other out. They both did a great job. I think Reapers came up with that extra play that got them over the hump to beat them. And then once Bex got into the losers bracket, I think they were inside their own heads, and they ended up losing to Mambas. So they it's just one of those things where you just got to keep battling, and ultimately they just came up a little bit short.
Yeah.
Hats off to Infinity Rockets. I told Krista on Saturday evening, I said, that's the smoothest I've ever seen any 5-man team play. They weren't out there trying to hit home runs every time they got up. They're very methodical, and defenses didn't have an answer for them. I think their lowest scoring game all day, they only scored 12 points in that game. But still, it was just, very, very methodical, just very, every time they touched the ball, it was a decent series, whether it was taking time off the clock, to not necessarily score, but to give yourself that advantage. And then defensively, nobody had an answer for them. They didn't really give up any points. The final championship game, I think they won. It was either 22 or 27-6. I don't remember. But they defensively, I think they had 2 pick sixes of the 3 scores. So they were just a problem all day. So hats off to those guys.
Now, is that team? I recognize some of the players just from when I was playing, but it looked like a lot of veterans. Is it kind of a mashed up like Carolina Legion, Pocket Rockets kind of team, or?
So Infinity's been around for quite a while now. And Pocket Rockets, they're probably, I want to say Pocket Rockets probably about 3 or 4 years old now as a team. But they joined together. It was the thought process, from my understanding, was Infinity's offense matches with Pocket Rockets defense, and it's an absolute problem. You got guys from Infinity that can play on both sides and be a problem, and then you've got guys on Pocket Rockets that can do just the exact same, and they're just as much of a problem. I think both teams benefited from this merge, and it made sense.
Yeah. Now, are they? Do they travel as a team, or when they travel, they play? Oh, okay.
They travel. They're more on the other side as far as tournament play goes and whatnot. They'll play in USA tournaments here and there, but yeah, they primarily stick to the other side, which is cool.
Yeah.
I think their plan is to be in Orlando come January.
I gotcha. Well, I love double elimination tournaments. When I used to run tournaments, now I was still trying to like figure stuff out and everything. I didn't run leagues. I only did that once. So I would have like pool play games in the morning, and then I would do a double elimination tournament. But that was because when the size of my tournaments got so big, I was having teams coming from all over the state of Colorado, and I wanted to make it worth their drive. And so to be able to, to say to a team, hey, this is a 1 day tournament and you lose your first one, you're out, so I wanted to try to give as many games as possible. But the one thing I would always run into is I never paid to rent a park or for lights or anything like that.
Right.
So we were always battling the sunset. And there were times when either we got to the if game and we had to be like, okay, next score wins. And,
That's tough. That's tough.
It's hard to lose a championship game because of the sunset. I will say that.
So. I will say, as far as structure goes, when it comes to tournament play, I definitely prefer having pool play and then single elimination. That's from a structure setting for me. I'm very big on staying on time, keeping things moving, and doing that. Double elimination makes that a little bit more difficult. Fortunately, if we do a pretty good job of keeping things on track and keeping extracurriculars to a minimum and being able just to keep moving through the day. So
I know. I just remember there's always one point. I think it's like the quarterfinals where there is a team that is just going to have to sit, and that that always causes a pretty big gap for them. And that would always get kind of the biggest complaints. There would be one team that would be sitting for like 2 or 3 games. And it just, I don't know if it's quarterfinals or something like that, but I just remember that always happening.
Yeah, that was kind of the tale of Saturday. It was pretty much, if you won the quarterfinal game, you had to sit for probably about an hour and a half, waiting for the semifinals. And that was the kind of the universal comment. But I mean, at the end of the day, when you're only running 2 fields, you can only do so much. So all in all, all in all, it was a good league. We had fun. I think, I think a lot of the teams got good work in, and hopefully, that'll carry right into January when everybody goes down to Florida.
Yeah. So you shut down for the winter, and
Yep.
then when's the spring season usually happen?
Usually end of February, 1st of March, just depending. It's usually when we try
Yeah.
to start up.
Gotcha. Cool.
Yep.
Well, the other thing that was going on is in my original state of Colorado, the big 8-man league, PF3. They had their playoffs. I have enough former teammates and guys that I know, so I'm always watching those games on Facebook Live. Um, and I will say that unfortunately, that league has gotten to a point where it's so predictable. And I had to look it up just to make sure. Just questioning it. I'm like, this league has been around for 20 years or 20 seasons, so 10 years. Um, and there's three teams that are always in the top four. And looking back at like the 20 seasons that they've had, those three teams have won 16 of the championships. So it's
Nothing wrong with that.
so basically, well, in my opinion, for 8-man, what we talked about last week. Sorry for the static, by the way. They got to figure something out to keep that format from dying. I think for PF3, they are struggling in that because they have only three teams that have the talent pool. And players sometimes go from one of those three teams, but basically the best players are on those three teams. And no matter how the season goes, you can pretty much expect that one of those three teams is going to win the championship. I
Yeah.
feel like at this point, that is a league that if they just took a step back and looked at the landscape of flag football, they have a beautiful field that they use. It's a high school field. They could turn that field and put three or four fields of fives on. They could do fives contact. They could do sixes contact if they want to, and their league would explode because it would be the only one that would be offering it. But instead, they're basically down to three teams that matter, and everyone else just is playing for whatever.
So, so, but the thought would be if they go down to that, so then you're looking at 5, maybe 6 teams that matter. Maybe because at the end of the day, of those 3 teams, there's only one quarterback.
That's
Um,
true.
so I think you're just you're changing the color of a car at that point with the same car. You're just,
Mm,
you're taking a Mustang out of the driveway and putting a yellow Mustang out and putting a red Mustang in. It's the same thing. It's just a different color. You're just trying to make it. If the style works in your area, and it seems like out that way, that's all they do. You know,
yeah, for sure.
for me, I know Corey was it Juilliard.
Yeah, yep,
Yeah, so Corey, I know he's a big 8-man guy. So they're going to do the things they can to keep that alive as much as possible. And they still get attention nationally. They still bring in a couple teams here and there for their big tournament every summer. So I don't know that if I don't even know if they'd be willing to change. That'd be the big thing. Because
yeah,
again, you get just like you deal with out on the East Coast, you get guys who are set in their ways and they don't want to change. They don't want to do anything different, and they're just content with just doing their thing. So
yeah.
I don't know. I don't know what they do as far as that goes.
Yeah, I mean this past summer they did change it a little bit where they offered both an 8-man and a 5-man tournament. They still unfortunately that I don't know if that was the case. I just think main event didn't want to come anymore because they had won the last 3 years.
Yeah.
So they just didn't. I think they only got one or two out of state teams this past summer. So it was basically like a Colorado tournament. But they did offer 5-man. So that was something different. When I was still playing, there was a tournament they offered one summer where they did fives contact one day and fives non-contact the other. And to me, that was the most competitive tournament they had ever had. Um, a lot of teams came out of the woodwork for that. I know Colorado Springs has their own stuff, so teams came up from there. That's a heavy military community, so it did bring some more attention. But I do understand what you're saying that Ace has worked for that region for so long, and it's not just them. There's kind of if they're the A league, there's definitely a B, C, and D league in Denver that continues to have teams. So I get it. So finally, the other thing that happened this weekend is there were some world champions named. Do you know what I'm talking about?
No, I do not.
so,
Lay it on me.
so in China, there was a tournament called the
About.
International Flag Football Championship, and Showtime from Los Angeles, Caker and the crew, they went out there and they dominated, and they're now world champs.
Sick.
So,
Yeah, I was wondering about that. So apparently that invitation came from them winning the NFL Flag Adult Invitational in Vegas earlier this year.
okay.
That's how they got that invite. But yeah, they went out there. They they shredded whoever they played. Apparently they played in the rain and had a big time and brought home the gold.
Yeah, it was a big trophy, a really big trophy.
You think they got it through customs?
I don't know. So now something that Caker has done recently over the last year and a half or so, he has at least one NFL player on his team at all times, and
Really?
there's been some tournaments where he's had two or three NFL players. Either they're they've just left the league, or they're taking some time off or whatever, waiting to trying to work their way back up or whatever. But um, definitely not no names, not top of the pile, but they are learning flag football. So it's kind of starting a little bit, through his system. I know he's travels a lot, big into being involved in a lot of tournaments throughout the country. But he also expects a lot out of his players. It's a big commitment. They have to contribute to the all the expenses and everything. He's not dishing that all out. So yeah, one of the players that did go to China, he won a Super Bowl with the Broncos, Super Bowl 50. I think he. I think he still holds a record over at CSU. But whatever.
Nice.
It's interesting to see that there are some NFL players already kind of trickling in through and trying to figure out flag football.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think that's what we're going to start seeing is some of these former guys are going to say, "Hey, wait a minute. There's an opportunity for me to get a gold medal, for me to do something that I didn't get the opportunity to do in the league. I was number 54, 55 on the 53 roster. Let me take an opportunity here. We see Dominique Rodgers-Cromartie. He plays in Florida all the time, tears it up. Plays for Coop's team. When they play occasionally. There's guys like that play. So it's definitely something to keep an eye out for, like you said.
Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah, so I just I think that's I don't know where that tournament came from. They did have, I mean, there's a lot of small there's a lot of small countries in Southeast Asia. I don't know if you were aware of that. Besides China,
there are. Yep.
So based on your qualifications of what World Championship should be, there was like 8 countries represented.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, so it was, you
And
know,
there and Showtime's to represent the United States. Rock and roll.
yeah. So I don't know. I mean, what do we call it? Are they the world champs? Do they?
I think
Are
they
they?
have a world championship. I think that's fair to
Are
say.
are they
If you're
supposed to?
competing, good.
Are they supposed to play the national team?
I believe that's the next step, I guess. But I do think if you're going and you're playing a group of other countries, absolutely, I think you could say that. You know,
Yeah.
I think just if you call something, I don't know. I'm not going back down this rabbit hole. We were already down it. Put the rug back on top of it. We're gonna keep it rolling, Ant.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. So any looking forward, what do you got going on? What's next for you?
So next thing for me in a couple of weeks, I'm assigning. I work with a group in Charlotte, North Carolina. They do a turkey bowl every year. The last 3 years, I've assigned the officials for it. It's a ton of fun. All the money goes to a good cause, and the winners actually walk away with a turkey. Um, yeah, it's frozen, but they you win a turkey if you win this tournament. So it's pretty
Yeah.
cool. They bring it out. They do a whole presentation for it. All the money goes to good causes. So that's next, and then we got a couple weeks off, and then we get right back in it. We're in San Francisco.
Nice. So I at first I was thinking maybe you were saying a live turkey, but I'm glad you clarified that it's a frozen turkey.
Well, here in North Carolina, they power the windmills, so we get the electricity going long enough for us to cook it. And then, we travel to Virginia and cash in our deposit checks at the bank there because we don't have banks in North Carolina. And then
That's right.
it's all a whole bunch of fun.
I don't know what I just hey, but you guys are the kings of contact flag football though.
Don't forget it. We don't have electricity, but we can bang heads, man.
That's right. There we go. Okay, fair enough. All right. Well, any final thoughts, Jacob?
Man, that's short and sweet. I'm just looking forward to a little bit of downtime. Really going to get focused and locked in on these next couple tournaments coming up. Making sure we got the right people in place for those. If you haven't reached out to me about Worlds, make sure you do reach out to me. We get you signed up. We get you ready to go. That's going to be big. That's all I got.
How many officials are you gonna have at Worlds?
Goal 125
Yeah,
to 150. That's the goal.
solid.
Because between
Yeah,
adults and youth, we will absolutely need it.
that's awesome.
It's gonna be a ton of fun.
For sure. Well, my final thoughts. I guess it's just been fun interacting with people on social media, posting clips. I think Ed, he stirred up a lot of attention with some of his takes on flag football. So
2 weeks
that's
later.
been yeah, that's been interesting. But unfortunately, we did not hit our goal of 100 subscribers on YouTube. So I think I mean really I blame the DMV. They did not. They,
Hey, well, you know what? There's always tomorrow, and there's a good chance we're gonna get a lot of Canadian interest off of this. So let's, it's like Ant said, if you guys see it, you like what you see, like, subscribe, share. YouTube's the best place to see it, but there's other places as well.
yeah, there are. I know, Jacob. I know you only know what Facebook is, but there are other forms of social media. There's Instagram. There's TikTok. There's Threads. There's
I know.
Twitter, X. We are on all of them. So literally, it's great because anything anybody looks at, anybody wants to listen to on Apple Podcast or Spotify or any of those things, iHeartRadio. All you got to do is type in Clocks Running, and you will find us on some platform. So that's what's exciting. We are everywhere. We are going to continue to just bring content but we are still on a road trip. Now, we are in another country, and I don't know where we're headed next. Jacob, do you wanna let everyone know, or you want to keep that under wraps for now?
We're headed back to the States. That's all I'm going to say.
Okay,
We're headed
all
back
right.
to the States, which is
Well,
sad.
grab your well, grab your bag of combos, and I'm gonna grab my cream cheese, and let's hit the road.
It's the worst combination ever. All right, sounds good.
All right, later.
See ya.